post-installation configuration. Okay, now that we've installed Exchange, let's run through a few post-installation steps. The first thing I recommend doing is creating a service account for the Exchange system services, because when you run services under the context of the system or administrator accounts, you'll find that it's difficult to identify in the Windows event log if Exchange caused an entry to be listed or if a user did by performing some sort of task. So if you run under the context of a specially created Exchange service account, it makes tracking Exchange events much easier. So we'll open up Active Directory Users and Computers by clicking on Start, Administrative Tools, and then going to Active Directory Users and Computers. Now we'll come over here and we'll go to our Users OU, or whatever OU that you've configured for your Exchange account to live in, and we'll right click and we'll select New User. Okay, now we'll give our Exchange account a name, and we'll call ours SVC_Exchange, and then we'll use the same name down here for our user principal name. Now I prefer to use SVC underscore then an abbreviated name of the service for my service accounts rather than a name first then the service last. That way, when I have other service accounts, say for example with say SQL Server, it makes it easier to locate them as they'll all start with an SVC underscore followed by the name of the application. But you can choose whatever makes you happy, and we'll choose Next. And now we'll need to give it a password. Now make sure you give the Exchange account a good strong password consisting of upper and lowercase characters as well as numbers and special characters to meet the Windows 2003 complexity requirements. So we'll enter in our password and we'll do it again just to confirm it. Now the next thing we'll do is we'll uncheck User Must Change Password at Next Logon box, and we'll select that user cannot change the password to prevent any malicious users or otherwise ignorant users perhaps from changing our password and stopping Exchange from running, and we'll also select Password Never Expires. And then we'll choose Next. Now next we have the option of creating an Exchange mailbox, but because this is going to be a service account, we won't do that. We'll uncheck that box and we'll choose Next and then Finish. Okay, and you can see our account's been created down here. Now what we'll do now is we'll right click on our account and we'll choose Properties, and then we'll select the Member Of tab because we'll need to assign some additional permissions to this account. So we'll come down here and we'll choose Add, we'll click Advanced, and then Find Now. And then we'll come down here, just expand that, and we'll select the Domain Administrators group. We'll come down and I'll hold down the Control key and click on Enterprise Admins. And again we'll scroll down and we'll also choose Schema Admins and we'll click OK, and you can see that those three group accounts have actually been put in this box here, and we'll click OK again, and then we can see that those accounts have now been put here. Alright, that's been done. Now what we're going to have to do is configure our Exchange services. So what we'll do is we'll click on Start, Administrative Tools, and then come down here and launch the Services MMC. Right, I'll just expand this to make it a little easier to see. And then we'll come down here and we'll scroll down until we can locate all of our Exchange services. As you can see, there are quite a few. So what we'll do is we'll just select one here for the moment and we'll right click and we'll select Properties. Then we'll come over here to the Logon tab and we can see that this service will currently start using the local system account. So to start this account using our service account we've just created, we'll select this account and then we'll choose the Browse button. Then we'll come and choose Advanced and then Find Now, and down here we'll select our Service Exchange account and click OK and OK again. And now we'll need to enter in the password that we provided for our account, so we'll do that now. And we'll have to do it again. And now we can click on OK. And then we'll get a message that tells us that our service account has been granted the Logon as a Service right, so we'll click on OK. Now you'll have to go and repeat this for all of the Exchange services, but we'll just do one more just so it makes it familiar for you. So we'll right click on the next one, we'll select Properties, we'll come over here to the Logon tab, we'll choose this account, and then the Browse button, Advanced, Find Now, locate our service account, click OK, OK again. Then we'll need to enter in our password, and again to confirm it, and then click OK. Now the last thing I want to make mention of with regards to Exchange services is realise that all of these services might not be used depending on your environment, but it's worth setting them all to use your service account, just in case you make use of any of these features later on. Now this way you don't have to figure out anything later on, you'll already know the password for each service. Now the next thing I want to make mention of is rebooting your Exchange server. Many companies that I've worked for have a predefined interval for rebooting their servers to keep them running at maximum performance. Now whether or not this includes you doesn't really matter at this point, but at some stage you will reboot your server, whether that's for problematic reasons or maybe you're installing a Windows or Exchange service pack or a hotfix or something. Now when you reboot an Exchange server, you'll soon realise that this can take a while. In fact, waiting 5 to 10 minutes is not an unreasonable amount of time to be waiting, especially if Exchange is running on a domain controller. So with this in mind, I recommend writing a batch file which first stops the Exchange services before shutting down the server. Now this batch file doesn't have to be terribly complex. In fact, it can consist of just a few netstop commands and then calling the shutdown command at the end. Now don't worry, all of your required Exchange services are set to automatic, so when your Exchange server reboots, they'll all fire up again. Now the next thing that should be part of your post-installation checklist is installing the Exchange system management tools on your client workstation. When you manage Exchange on a daily basis, most of the tasks you'll perform you can and should do from your local computer. So to install the Exchange management tools, simply pop the Exchange CD in your drive and it will auto-play to the splash screen that you see here. Now before we do this, you must first make sure that your workstation is logged onto a domain. If it's not, log off and then log on using a domain account. Otherwise you'll get all the way to the end of the installation wizard and you'll be told to go back and log onto a domain. So as our XP machine here is logged onto our test domain, we'll continue. So we'll click on Exchange Deployment Tools, which will pop up another window. And then we'll come down here and choose the bottom option, which is to install the Exchange System Management Tools only. Now here we'll get a new window that tells us that depending on which operating system we're using, we have a few prerequisites to consider. Well, as we're using Windows XP, we'll need to install Internet Information Services Snap-in, the SMTP service, the web service, and then the Windows 2003 administration tools. Alright, so there's a bit to get through there. There's quite a lot of prerequisites. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on Start, Control Panel, and then we'll click on Add Remove Programs. And then we'll come over here and select Add Remove Windows Components. And to make our life a bit easier, we can simply select Internet Information Services. Now that automatically includes the SMTP and the web service. So all we've got to do now is just click Next and make sure you have your Windows XP CD-ROM on the drive because you will need to copy some files to your workstation. In the meantime, I'll pause this video and we'll return once the files have copied. Okay, we're done, so I'll click Finish and we can close all this down now. Now the next thing that we need to do here is install the Windows 2003 administration tools. Now I've pre-copied those across to our server. They're sitting on our C drive at the moment in our Windows 2003 admin pack. So we simply need to come here and launch our MSI file. Alright, and this starts up the installation wizard, so we'll click Next. We'll agree with the license agreement, we'll choose Next. And the files will start installing. Now I'll just pause this video and again we'll return once it's all installed. Okay, the admin pack's now been installed, and another thing I should probably mention at this point is of course you can get this from Microsoft's website, so go to Microsoft's website and do a search for Windows 2003 Administration Pack. Alright, we'll click on Finish and we can close this down now. Okay, we're done. We'll just perform a quick double check. IIS, yes, that's done. The SMTP service, well, we'll open up the services MMC down here. And we'll scroll all the way down here and we can see the SMTP service is installed and started. If we scroll all the way down to the bottom, we can see the web service, and that's also started, which is good. And the final prerequisite was the admin pack, so if we click on Start, Administrative Tools, and now we can see a whole bunch of new management console tools, Active Directory, Certification Authority, DHCP, DNS, and so on. Alright, so we can now go back to our Exchange installation and come all the way down the bottom here, and then we can choose to run our setup now. Alright, so up pops the installation wizard, we'll choose Next. Again, we'll agree with our license agreement, we'll choose Next. And here it comes, the thing that annoys me more than anything else. We have to enter in our 25-digit license key yet again. So for the fourth time, I'm going to pause this video, enter in my license key, and then I'll choose Next. Okay, we've entered in our license key, and now we come to the familiar screen we've seen a few times. Now, even though it's not very obvious from this screen, to install the management tools, you must first come up to here next to Microsoft Exchange and select a custom installation. Because if you attempt to select the management tools down here without first attempting to select a parent option up the top, you'll be told off, as you can see. So make sure that we've selected a custom installation up the top here, and then we can come down here and choose to install our tools. And finally, you can see that our installation path is going to be under Program Files Exchange Server, and it's going to take up 142 megabytes of disk space. Alright, so everything looks okay, so we'll choose Next. Okay, now we just get a summary, and quite a weird summary actually. It's telling us that Microsoft Exchange custom components are going to take up 12 megabytes. The installation of our Exchange System Management tools is going to take 100, so there's 112, but the total drive space is going to be 142. So with mathematics like that, I'm not sure why the Windows calculator is such a critical Windows system file anyway, but if you watch the Winstructor video on the Windows File Protection Service, you'll probably understand my little joke there. Alright, so it's 142 meg, 112 of that is the tools, the other 30 is probably wizards, but whatever it is, we'll just click Next, and away we go. Now I'll just pause this video while it makes up its mind how much space it wants to consume, and we'll just return once the Exchange management tools have been installed. Okay, so everything's finished, the management tools are now installed, and now you'll be able to manage your day-to-day configuration tasks from your workstation. Alright, the final thing that should be part of your post-installation checklist is delegating permissions to other administrators so that they can manage Exchange. So the first thing we'll do is go to our Active Directory Users and Computers MMC, and we'll go to our Users OU, which you're in right now, and we'll right click and we'll select New, Group. Now because the group that we want to create must have permissions assigned to it, we're going to need to choose a security group, which is the default setting. Now here we're going to create 3 groups, and we're going to use them to manage our Exchange administrators. So this group I'm going to call Exchange Senior Admins, and then we'll click Next. Now we can choose to create an Exchange email address if you like. Now this is simply so we could email all of our senior admins at once. Now if you do want to do that, check this box, but I'm not going to bother about that for the moment. I'm just going to click Next and then Finish. Now again we'll right click and we'll select New, Group, and we'll call this one Exchange Admin, and this will be for our day-to-day Exchange administrators, and we'll click Next, Next, and then Finish. And for final time we'll right click, select New, Group, and we'll call this one Exchange View Only, and this is going to be for people like the help desk who might need to look at our Exchange server but we don't want them changing anything, so we'll click Next, Next, and then Finish one more time. Alright, now what we're going to do is go and fire up our Exchange System Manager by clicking on Start, All Programs, Exchange, and then System Manager. And then we'll come up here and we'll right click on our organisation name, and then we'll choose Delegate Control, and this starts up the Exchange Administration Delegation Wizard, so we'll click Next. Now at this point we only have one Exchange administrator, and this is the administrator account which we use to install Exchange. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on Add, and then we'll click the Browse button, Advanced, and then come up here and choose Find Now, and then we'll scroll down and we'll select our Exchange administrators. We'll click OK and OK again, and we can see that that's now been populated up here underneath the group. And then what we'll do under the role is we'll select the drop down box and we'll choose Exchange Administrator, and then we'll click on OK. So now we need to delegate control to the other 2 groups that we created, so again we'll click on Add, Browse, Advanced, Find Now, we'll scroll down and select our Exchange Senior Administrators and click OK, and then OK again. And for the role for these Senior Administrators, we'll choose a full Exchange Administrator and click OK. And one more time we'll click on Add, Browse, Advanced, Find Now, and then we'll scroll down and we'll select our Exchange View Only account, click OK, and OK again, and then we'll leave the default here, which is the Exchange View Only Administrator, and click OK. Alright, now we'll click on Next, and now we just get a summary of what we've done, so we'll choose Finish, And here we get a message which just tells us that to fully administer an Exchange server, our delegated user or group must be a member of the local machine administrators group. Now we're not going to do that for our administrators and our view-only group. We'll only do that for our Exchange full administrators. So we'll just click on OK to dismiss that message. Alright, now that we've performed our post-installation configuration, we'll move on to the next video where we'll discuss administrative and routing groups.